I think the interiors evolve a lot, don't they? They're quite organic.
Yes, and they might happen over years. And also they might stay for years. You know, there could be a house that hasn't been touched for 30 years and it's only just starting to look rather nice. You know, it's kind of mulching down. I think it's like when you hang pictures, you know how you can hang couple and then you always have to go out, walk around the block and come back and they need to settle in and then with your eye there, oh, actually, I need to maybe tweak that a little bit, then I can add these and then you can build up the picture. But it's quite difficult, I think, just to go boom, boom, boom. Well, you can do it, but then I think it just probably has no soul. And I think we want the decoration to have depth.
Welcome to Talk Shop. I'm Ariel Okin, a New York-based interior designer, writer, and editor, looking to bring a little bit of magic into our homes every day. After years as a writer and editor in the interiors world, I founded my own editorial site, Fenimore Lane, in 2020, and the Talk Shop interview series was born. Each week, I delve into the personal experiences of the top interior designers and tastemakers around the globe. This week, we're returning to the Mayflower Inn Spa in the Connecticut countryside for one of two panels recorded at our second annual Fenimore Lane Design Summit earlier this summer. Our first panel is all about British design, in partnership with Farrow Ball, as we welcome two best-in-class panelists, Emma Burns, the managing director of Sibyl Colefax and John Fowler, and Paddy O'Donnell, international brand ambassador for Farrow Ball, with my dear friend, the fabulous Grace Hunt, home and design editor at Luxe Magazine, moderating with her thoughtful questions and lots of fun thrown in. This was a conversation we all absolutely loved. So tune in as the three sit down to discuss their love for British design and color, and a bevy of incredible stories and actionable takeaways from two legends in the industry.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for stepping out of the heat and finishing your fabulous day of shopping with us in the tea house. So today we are here to talk about all things British design, gather some inspiration from best-in-class experts on the subject, and what better setting than an inn called the Mayflower in New England's rolling countryside for us to have this conversation. My name is Grace Hunt. I'm the home and design editor at Luxe Interiors and Design Magazine, so please enjoy your magazines and get familiar with our brand if you don't know it already. So before we dive in, I just want to say a quick thank you to our host, the Mayflower, to our panel partner, British paint and paper maker Farrow Ball, and of course to Ariel, Okin, and Fenimore Lane for making all this possible. And of course to our panelists who are here all the way from England. Joining us today are Paddy O'Donnell, Global Brand Ambassador for Farrow Ball, and Emma Burns, Managing Director at Sibyl Colefax and John Fowler. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you. So rather than me reciting their bios, I think it'd be more fun if they do it in their own words. So let's go down the line here, starting with Emma. And please tell our audience who you are, where you're from, what you do, and what brings you here today.
My name's Emma Burns. I am joint managing director of Sibyl Colefax and John Fowler, which is the decorating arm of Colefax and Fowler, the fabric company. We're a little bit separate from them. And I've come from London originally, but today I arrived from Newport, Rhode Island, where I was also talking at the Design Week, where the title was "The Brits Are Coming."
Yeah. There's a real theme to your
show. It's lovely. It couldn't be nicer. And so I'm so happy to be here and talking to you. It's lovely.
Hello, yes, I'm Patrick, or Paddy O'Donnell. So I've come from UK as well, obviously, and I've been here doing other things. I've been dashing around, going New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, whatever, wherever. I think I even slipped into Pennsylvania yesterday. Doing podcasts, talks, videos, film, photography. It's been quite full on, but it's really lovely being here. A lot of you saw me earlier today, so sorry, you probably think, who's that crazy person again? We had enough of him at 11 o'clock. But it's lovely to be here, and thank you all for coming this afternoon. So hopefully we're going to answer some questions for you, and you can take some nuggets home with you as well.
Exactly. So I'm going to ask you guys for a little bit more. This being a weekend celebrating design, I think everybody here has an interest in your amazing careers, specifically at two iconic British design brands. So can you kind of just walk us through your career trajectory, youngin' who loves design to where you are now in these incredible places? Emma, let's start with you.
There's a cartoon that a friend of my mother's did for her of me, and it says baby Emma with her favourite toys, and I've got a hammer and nails and some pictures, and I was obsessed with picture hanging from a very, very early age. And I always just loved to play house. It's just totally been my obsession. My grandmother had trained as an architect, but her father didn't like her going to sight with young men. He thought she might get up to something bad. So she was a frustrated architect. My mother was brilliant in gardening, fantastic. She was also a brilliant dressmaker. And so my childhood was full of making things, looking at things, painting, drawing, sewing, everything like that. And so it was a sort of natural progression, really, when I left school, that I was going to need to do something with houses. My first job came about in a very funny way. I was talking to a friend at a dinner party and I said, I really want to be an interior decorator. And she said, oh, you could have my friend Lizzie's job because she's getting married and going to Australia. So I was like, perfect. So we chatted about this for a bit, and then she said, well, I suppose you ought to meet Lizzie, and then perhaps you ought to meet Lizzie's boss, because he might not be very keen on this plan that we've cooked up. Anyway, luckily, that worked, and I went to someone called Charles Hammond, who were a very old English firm. They were started in 1907, and they were wonderful. They were very sort of country house and lovely. And I was there for 6 years, and I worked in all sorts of different bits around kind of making the tea, cutting up fabrics into cuttings to give out to clients. And then, to my total and utter joy, I was asked to go and run the fabric showroom at what was then called, albeit of it was called Colefax and Fowler, it's very confusing, in Brook Street, which is possibly the most beautiful building in the world. It was just like a lovely house. And you went in through the front door and you sort of just lost your breath because it was so beautiful. The architecture was beautiful. The furniture that we were selling, the curtains, and it was just this wonderful place. And so I thought I would rather work at Colefax and Fowler, I don't know, putting out the trash than anywhere else in the world. So I was so thrilled. And I started off there in the fabric showroom, which was amazing because people would come in and they'd say, oh, I'd like to buy some fabric to make a pair of curtains, please. And so then you'd get to talk to them about the room. And then you say, but what's your sofa? Oh, well, actually, so then we'd design the sofa and the cushions and the rug. And so it was just so lovely. And it was a really good training because it made me think on my feet. You know, you didn't have time to say, hold on, I'll go and think about it and I'll send you things, because the people were there and they wanted an instant answer. So I did that for a year, and then Roger Banks Pye, who was a director of Colefax, who's a total and utter god, very sadly dead, he had an assistant, Bridget, who came in one day and said, I've just got engaged. So I said, fantastic, I'll have your job. Bit of a pattern here. And so I went to work for Roger, who was amazing, and I worked for him for 2 years, and we were inseparable. I would pick him up in the morning, we'd have breakfast together, we'd go to work, we'd talk all morning, we'd work very hard, we'd go to lunch together, we'd work all afternoon, then we'd go home, we'd have drinks, we'd go out to dinner, and we just had this sort of intense relationship, and I learnt so much from him. He had such sort of wit about his work, and he had huge knowledge. He could draw like an absolute angel. He would draw the curtain design for people. He could draw a room layout. He would just sketch, you know, he'd be here and he'd probably draw Grace and then just the whole room, and it would just be so alive, and it was an amazing way to communicate with our clients. And it was lovely because it never felt like work. It was always just like having the best time ever. But we did really nice work. We did you know, behave properly, but it just was total heaven. And then I was married and I had a baby, and so I had to have a few days off, which is quite irritating. And when I came back to work for myself at Colefax. And that was very exciting and lovely and a bit nervous-making, because I thought, gosh, it's a big difference from going from being somebody's assistant to actually, you know, being your neck on the block. But that was now quite a long time ago, and I've had a fantastic time. I'm very lucky. I've had lots of repeat business, lots of lovely clients who I've known for 30 years and done different houses for them or even for their children now. And that's really such a joy. And it's lovely to be able to look back on that. I mean, I have no intention of stopping. Please don't think I'm saying I'm going to, because apart from anything else, my children would kill me. That please don't ever think of the R word. you just have too much energy and you'll be really in the way and you'll be irritating us. So I intend to go on for a lot longer. There's lots of houses still to decorate.
Wonderful. What a wonderful journey. Sounds like lots of hard work and some serendipity too.
Yeah, a lot of serendipity.
Thank you, Emma. How about you, Paddy?
Mine's slightly less successful, I suppose, than Emma's in a way. But like Emma, as a child, I was really curious, and I was always sketching and drawing. And I was always looking. I had the smallest room. I had two older sisters at home, and they had quite nice big bedrooms, and I had this tiny, I'm calling it a box room. It's probably being wholly unfair, but I used to keep rearranging it and rehanging things and taking a door off to a redundant cupboard and painting it inside and making that into my little office. I was always fussing and being annoying, and my parents went, oh, for goodness sake. But I didn't have a lot of cultural reference when I was a child. You know, I grew up in a very sort of ordinary middle-class family. But my great-grandmother, my grandmother, always used to tell me about, was an antique dealer. And she also used to tell me about her home growing up. My grandmother and I are very close. And it just sounded amazing, and it was kind of exotic. And then great friends of mine, parents, bought this really beautiful house, quite a famous house in Oxfordshire, called Hazley Court, which is actually one of Emma's sort of company's founders, Nancy Lancaster, an American, Virginian, bought it. It was her last house, and Nancy actually died there. I think I went to Hazley, and it kind of just opened my world of the beauty and the power of decoration rather than something frivolous and silly. And it just really opened, and I just felt very hungry. So I did a little bit of interior decoration, but then because I'm slightly sort of restless as a person, I went to do specialist painting at this place called Lennon Pardon in London. So I was doing mural and Trompe l'oeil, but my timing was atrocious because at one point everybody wanted rag walls or stippled walls or faux wood on furniture and marbling. But by the time I finished, and within 6 months, everybody had moved on. So it was like, oh, damn, I have this amazing skill set and nobody wants to pay for it. But then weirdly, I got into TV. So I've had a really weird, slightly creative, but so I got into TV and I was an AD, assistant director, for a long time, TV in film and television. And then I was a head cook at this rather shishi deli in Notting Hill in London. And then this is probably TMI, I had a nervous breakdown. And my recovery was working for this really beautiful florist in Chelsea called Moisey Stevens, who a very lovely kind of royal appointment florist. And I always used to have to do, and the one thing I always remember, it's a very boring bunch of flowers. Every week I had to make a bunch of natural, not forced roses, red roses for the Queen from her son, now King Charles.
Wow.
But I love that job because it's the most healing job you could have, working with beautiful blues and flowers. Mm-hmm. And I had a great privilege. I did a lot of the shops in Knightsbridge and in Chelsea, and sort of going and doing Chanel, and it was always white flowers. And so it was a really, really lovely job. And that was my healing process back to who I am now a little bit. And then I went to work in Ireland. I moved to Ireland to be with my now partner. And then I came back here and started working for Farrow Ball 14 years ago.
Gosh, is it?
Wow.
14 years. I know, still there. And my job has evolved. So I used to run our colour consultancy service, and now I'm brand ambassador. And as we talked about earlier, I don't know what that means. Don't ask me to define my job. It's one of those really ridiculous jobs.
Oh, that was my next question. Darn.
But I've always loved interiors. Emma has always been a bit of a god for me. I was such a fangirl the first time I met Emma. So it's a huge treat. But I've just taken a day off from Farrow Ball to actually do my own freelance interior decoration consultation. So I am doing some
And will
projects.
you be introducing quite a lot of specialist painting?
Absolutely. But I'll be getting somebody else in to do it, because I've totally forgotten how to do anything. I can't even mix a glaze anymore. It's pathetic.
Well, thank you guys. I think it's always nice to know who you're about to hear from. And now we can definitively say we have some British design experts in our midst. So I think I want to start by defining that. Americans are obsessed with English interiors and British design, but do we even know what that is? I think maybe our interpretation might be different than yours. So let's start there by defining a British sensibility and what makes for an English interior.
Can I just, because I'm just curious, is that because is it a thing of the moment, or do you think generally Americans kind of look to British design more broadly?
I think it's both.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
I think there feels like a real zeitgeist at the moment for British interiors.
Absolutely. And I feel like well, I could go on and on about this, but I feel like it did start in COVID, that it really, kind of color and pattern and cozy and home and comfort kind of came to the foreground, and we moved away from our neutral American life.
But what's so funny is, I think, and I'm sure Paddy agrees, Nancy Lancaster was American. She came to England and she became partners with John Fowler. And she really put decoration, I think, into English houses. The sort of decoration we know today, where bathrooms are proper rooms, they're comfortable, they certainly have a rug, they might even have fitted carpet, and really wonderful sofas. And again, she had such wit and confidence that she could make these rooms alive, because up until really her input, rooms were rather staid in England. They were quite polite. That's fine in a way if you've got a stately home, but even there, it's not really what you want, is it? You want your house to be somewhere where you are totally relaxed. It's just your sanctuary, and it's the background. It shows who you are. It's your way of telling people, this is me, this is what I like, this is my art, these are my colours. And you want to be able to welcome people into your house, so it needs to be sociable, and there's so much that's so important about your house. I mean, it says everything, doesn't it? And I think that the English, probably because of the weather also, our houses are so important to us.
Mm-hmm.
That's why our curtains are really good, because we actually need them to keep the cold out. Our sofas have to be comfortable because we all have dogs. The dog needs to have a really comfortable place to sit.
I think that's quite a big difference between both nations.
And I think also the English entertain at home a lot, which I'm not sure is something that is as widespread in America. I think you perhaps tend to take people out or meet and go out together. I don't know if that's still the case. I would always felt it was in the past. So I think those things, the sort of comfort, the warmth, the background, the dogs, the children, I think our houses are quite sort of democratic, where they're not kind of kept out of anything, which is nice. And the comfort, timeless comfort.
So it's more about those qualities than any particular aesthetic quality in your house.
I think the interiors evolve a lot, don't they? They're quite organic.
Yes, and they might happen over years. Also they might stay for years. There could be a house that hasn't been touched for 30 years, and it's only just starting to look rather nice. It's kind of mulching down. I think it's like when you hang pictures. How you can hang a couple, and then you almost have to go out and walk around the block and come back, and they need to settle in, and then with your eye go, oh, actually, I need to maybe tweak that a little bit, then I can add these, and then you can build up the picture. But it's quite difficult, I think, just to go boom, boom, boom. Well, you can do it, but then I think it just probably has no soul. And I think we want the decoration to have depth, and it's just very important that it speaks to you and brings you joy, actually. That's
and I just want to say, on behalf of Emma, and she'll probably throw something at me later, Emma is one of those genius decorators where you walk into Emma's decorated rooms for a client and it doesn't feel decorated. And that is such a rare feat to pull off, because most interior design rooms feel decorated. And with Emma, it feels like somebody's home, and there's this beautiful light touch of brilliance. She's a genius.
Thank you. That's very kind. That means a lot from you.
What about you, Paddy? Can you elaborate on some of these things that make for a British interior from a...
I think Emma's pretty much said everything succinctly, and I think it's like rooms evolve over time. So it's not about you need change or you need to redecorate your room. Actually, sometimes it's just subtle tweaking. Mm-hmm. And it is that organic. I think our rooms are very layered. We like print, we like texture, we like colour, and we're not very stiff and formal. It's all about conviviality, our interiors. I think they're very relaxed.
I agree, and that's my next question. And again, this was me as an American trying to think of questions to ask about British design. And what stands out to me is that element of kind of imperfection, if you will. I say that in a good way, but not too fussy, not too glossy. Like, there's something lived in about an English interior done right.
Totally. I mean,
in my view.
The sort of grain of sand in the oyster makes the pearl, and that's an imperfection, isn't it? You need that. John Fowler always said that if you have a very sort of grand piece of furniture, you need to balance that with a kind of cracked mug or jug with a bunch of garden flowers in it, and then one thing just balances out the other, and that's just you see everything somehow. You see the whole, but you see them individually. That's really important.
No, I agree. Where do you think that comes from culturally? Because we have dogs and children in America, and we decorate for them as well.
Yes,
but
I think it's a confidence. I think the English are quite confident in their decoration. Not in a sort of smug way, but just in knowing what they like and perhaps not really minding what other people think. I think we're happy to be individual.
That's absolutely key, isn't it?
Yeah, I think definitely.
Yeah.
less trend-driven.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, there were some terrible trends in the recent past, like the feature wall.
Specialist decoration.
Specialist decoration.
Specialist painting.
It's the most wonderful.
Stupid idea.
It's the most specialist decoration is absolutely wonderful. I work with these amazing people now. I can give you their address. And we do so much specialist painting now, but it's not as it was in the 80s where every wall was rag rolled. And I think what happened was a lot of people did it who weren't doing it at all well, and it just gave it a bad name. And actually, I was working with some lovely American clients, and I said, oh, well, we could do some specialist painting here. And they went, oh, no, the 80s are back. No. And I said, no. Beautiful broken colour that will stipple on very discreetly. You won't even know it's specialist. It will just read as the most wonderful depth of colour. I'm like, okay, you can perhaps go into this a little more.
I love that. I want to dig a little deeper on what you mentioned about conviviality and kind of designing homes to be shared. How does that manifest? Like, what is actually being designed for company in mind?
Okay, so I think when you plan how your house is going to be, I think it's terribly important to be honest about how you live, how you want to live, and really what you do in your house. And if you're going to have a sitting room, you might have an eat-in kitchen, maybe you have a dining room, maybe you have a terrace and a garden. So I think you look at all of those areas and you think about how will I use these? Will it only be me? If it's only me, where will I kind of sit? What will I want to do? But when my friends come round, now, how can I've got a small house, but maybe if I make an L-shaped sofa and my furniture layout is such, I'll be able to have quite a decent gathering of friends, because when your friends come to your house, you want them to be comfortable. You don't want everyone to be like, oh, just try and find a chair, shall I, or sit on the floor. I think we've all grown out of that sort of student stage.
Not in Brooklyn.
You need an L-shaped sofa. Yeah, that's the answer to everything.
It's probably true.
And so I think we always think about our houses with other people in them, so that you take care of that as one of the first things. Yeah. I mean, there are some people who don't want to do that, and you go to their house and it's perfectly lovely, but it feels perhaps not quite real because it hasn't got an element of mess, or it hasn't got... It's rather like when you go to a house and there are no books and you think, oh, I'm really worried about these people. Awful. Yes. That was my worst thing.
My client in London at the moment, he's got these bookshelves which were listed, so we couldn't do anything with them. And he said, I bought, for the bookshelves, I solved it, because he's dyslexic. He went, I bought 30 terrarium. And I went, yeah, they're not going in there. You're not a student. You're spending a lot of money on this house. And so I just took him to the site and said, look, this site sells books by the meter. You don't have to read them, but can we just fill the bookcases with anything but plants in glass?
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. And you convinced him, obviously.
Yes, yeah, he did. He bought 9 meters of books. Hello.
Did you have him make them colour coordinate?
No, I said you're not allowed to colour coordinate. He was quite keen.
Actually, David Hicks did colour coordinate his books, but he had all his library rebound in shades of red, so from kind of scarlet through to eggplant, and just was so beautiful as a kind of ombre thing. Can you imagine the cost?
Yeah, wow. Gorgeous.
Yeah.
That's a nice segue to color, which I'm going to have you start with, Paddy. I'd like to talk about color in British design. Again, this may just be an American's impression, but it seems like you have such warm, varied, nuanced palettes. And I'd love if each of you could kind of share your thoughts on what makes for a British color palette, or perhaps any, color rules that the Brits seem to abide by. Paddy?
Well, it's quite funny, actually, because when I was doing my sessions earlier, we thought, let's pull off the stats for Connecticut. And I know it is from all around here today. And literally the top 20 best-selling Farrow Ball colours are all versions of white. I think Downpipe sneaked in. And I was like, oh, for goodness sake, guys, come on. I think our light is quite problematic. Obviously, it's different inland, coastal, blah, 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 which you get here. But we have quite long grey winters.
Yeah.
So the idea of being in a sort of a poorly painted or cold colour for 6 months of the year is just a total hideous thought.
Yeah.
So I think warmth comes. Emma and I are both sort of huge fans of slightly dirty drab colours.
Dirty and drab colours.
Dirty, we love dirty. Emma's going through a very dark phase at the moment. The darker, the better.
Oh, I wish we had some paint chips.
But we
what
just
are we
love.
talking about?
I think English people are quite confident with colour. I'm not even quite sure where that comes from. Whether it is to kind of bring a little bit of joy during 6 months of a gloomy year, which is mid or autumn right through to the start of spring. I think where Farrow Ball were quite clever when Tom started what we know as Farrow Ball in the 90s, he really tapped into that English sensibility and just honed this exquisitely curated palette of 57 colours. With just good dirty whites. There was nothing clean, nothing sharp. And those sharp, chemically produced colours are not, I don't think, a good representation of a good palette.
No, that's true.
All good colours have a bit of black in them. So, to kind of knock them back and take away that sharpness.
And do you think that's in general, or do you think that's a British school of thought?
I don't think it applies to all of Britain, because, we went through that awful grey moment that everybody else did, which I've been spending the last 10 years trying to deter anybody from going near.
No more grey.
But quite a lot of the Farrow Ball first colours, the first collection, were, I think, inspired by John Fowler.
They were John Fowler and David Hicks and David Millinari. They were. We didn't create those. All 57 colours were either taken from a historic build or work that John Fowler had done. There's a lovely symbiosis between our original palette and Sibyl Colefax and John Fowler. So yes, I think there are at least 12 John Fowler colours sitting within our palette.
And with wonderful names like the Elephant's Breath or
Palmet Grey, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
But apparently John Fowler used to be really naughty with clients and would say colour names in French if he wanted to be kind of silly. And one thing, he was talking to some very sort of grand person, he said, I think we should paint your bedroom walls. It's a marvellous colour. Yes, Vomites de la Reine. Someone was like, how lovely that sounds. Said with confidence.
I love that. Say everything with confidence. It's convincing.
So what are some of your favorite drabby shades at the moment?
Well, funny enough, when we were starting to talk about this, I had this flash in my head of these shaker paints that I used to be obsessed with. 40 years ago, I had this divine tiny chart, maybe the size of a stamp, and there was pear wood, there was shaker blue, and a lovely red that was like a dirty red. So those colours actually are American colours. Yeah. And they're so perfect, because they're perfect, of course, for the houses where they're used, aren't they? But I love those sorts of colours. I love Farrow Ball do a colour called Bancha, which is lovely and like a deep kind of khaki. And another company called Papers and Paints do something called Drab. And it's called Drab? Drab. It's just total heaven. It's sort of like the bottom of the pond, that kind of thing. It's not brown, it's not green, but it's the best background. If you put a painting against that and it's got a gold frame, it just sings out. Or black and white or anything, it can look immensely smart. My daughter has just moved and she bought a flat, and the living room, the dining room, living room bit was really weird shape, and it kind of led into another room, and she said, what are we going to do with it? And after a few tester pots, we thought, well, London clay will solve the problem. And it does. It looks fantastic. It looks really chic. It looks young, looks glamorous. It makes a wonderful background for her husband and her daughter. And people often make the mistake of saying, oh, but it's too dark. Well, when you look at a piece of colour like that, of course it's going to look dark. But once you spread it over a large surface, it just surrounds you and you don't notice it. And that's perhaps one of the reasons I love dark rooms so much, is you blur the edges in a way and they feel bigger. And they feel, I don't know, inviting.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite hue at the moment?
We have actually, it's probably similar to drab. So we have a really beautiful archive colour called Pantalon, which is a really, really dirty brown pond water green again. Sorry. And actually, we've just relaunched one of our archive colours called Etruscan Red, which is a really beautiful, quite brown, elegant red. It's lovely. It's slightly sort of, sang de boeuf kind of red. It's a really good dirty red. And that's really chic. It's a really good woodwork colour. It's a lovely kitchen colour, especially with soft pink on the wall. It looks rather smart.
Love that.
Really.
I'm also having a bit of a yellow moment, which I haven't had for about 30 years. And funnily enough, at Newport, everybody who spoke, yellow came up, but quite a strong, like a Chinese imperial yellow. We were all kind of like, ooh, yes. Wow. Lovely. But that's lovely, of course, with brown, or that's goose poo colour, isn't it? That's nice.
This is a good learning. So colorful, but
no, gras, isn't it? Poop de gras.
colorful but muddied tones. That's kind of the British palette.
Yeah.
So Ariel really wanted me to ask you for memorable career moments. You must have seen some incredible homes, some incredible design journeys. Just pick something from your memory. It could be a wonderful project, a terrible project, something transformative from your careers. That would be a fun story for our audience today.
Well, I was sitting in Brook Street and got a phone call from the girl on the front door to say, someone's coming, would like to come to talk to you about some log buildings in Wisconsin. It's like, really? You come to Mayfair for this? This is most unexpected. Anyway, this very lovely woman came in and explained to me that she and her husband were building a family camp in Wisconsin. And there were a series of log buildings. And so I went to see the site, and it was breathtakingly beautiful near the North Woods in Wisconsin. So very, very far away from everything. And the architect, who was from Montana, had designed it to look as if it had grown up, and there was the original cabin in the centre, which actually was a barn that had come from another state, and it was sort of chopped up a bit and made smaller and put in the middle with a darling little cutting garden around it, and then a family cabin there, a sort of entertaining cabin here, their own house here, the dining hall there, and another one in the woods called the raclette hut, which has no electricity, and you just walk there through the snow and eat raclette.
Oh, wow.
Perfect. And I thought, goodness, this is just so unexpected. But when I was a child, I read voraciously, and I read a lot of kind of American literature. So I was quite kind of into the kind of whole idea. And I needed to do a lot of research for things that would work. And again, back to colours, yes, what was going to be good. But also, what was amazing was my client had such an attention to detail that every single element we worried over. Whether it was the lining for the lampshade in the third powder room, or the applique work on the curtains for the four-poster bed in this bedroom, or whatever. And I don't think I've ever had such an opportunity to be so creative, because it went beyond everything. And I worked with this amazing woman who does embroidery and applique and stuff. And so, for example, in the dining room of this house, I found some indigo and off-white crewel work, which we were going to make into portieres. And originally we thought, we'll do all the curtains in that. And disaster, it was discontinued. There was only enough for the portieres. But, when something like that happens, nearly always something good happens. So then I thought, I could just buy the background cloth, and I could have Sarah embroider these beautiful indigo blue oak leaves down the leading edges and base. And then we'll just really discreetly embroider each person of the family's initials in a little corner. And then we put some surprises on them, so that when they were open in the daytime, you just saw the border going along the leading edge and along the base, and you saw what you thought was just this body of lovely off-white. And then when you close them, there would be a hummingbird, there'd be a dragonfly, there'd be a dandelion clock kind of blown out. And so it's just so lovely. But, you don't always get that opportunity to work with somebody to that level. And also, they were such lovely people that they said that everybody who'd worked on the project, they wanted us to carve our initials into a log. Oh,
that's amazing.
Great.
Are there photos of this project somewhere?
Yeah, actually, in Architectural Digest a couple of years ago, they photographed it, and I mean, I must say, I'm so proud of it, and it really is very lovely. And when people go there, they say, "Oh, this must have been in your family for years," and no, it's built 8 years ago.
Wow,
So
incredible.
that's very satisfying.
Well, we'll all be Googling that this evening. Thank you. Patty, how about
Actually, I don't really have a story to share because I haven't got that. So I haven't done anything remotely exciting like that. The only thing is my new guy, so because of my new kind of semi-career at almost pensionable age, he's a dream client, and my partner keeps saying, just enjoy this because you will never have another client like this person. Because I just go, like, you know those tiles we looked at for the bathroom? Those kind of really nice Moroccan Zelig and kind of a really sort of dirty yellow. I said, I've changed my mind. There's a beautiful tile company called Balliname in London, and Sarah Watson, who owns it, she's the most extraordinary woman. She has put all of her money, all of her investment, any profit she takes out of her business, and bought this tile factory in Stoke-on-Trent.
Balliname, right?
Yeah. Just because she said, if this tile factory goes out of business, I lose 60% of my product. So she has literally thrown all of her money in there. She has now started an apprenticeship program. So she's basically, there were 6 people who work there, and now 15. She's got all the children of the people that work there to come and do the apprenticeship, because it's the only kind of what's called tile lining, which is this incredibly fine beadwork on a tile that is filled with glaze. So she said, I cannot survive as a business without this, but I have no money. And I was asking about her return of investment. And she goes, I have no return of investment. This is to keep me going. But these people do an extraordinarily beautiful job. Actually, I know she sells very well in the States as well. Yeah. Anyway, so going back, I digress. But I then, these tiles for this shower, it's literally 2 walls, and it was kind of like £500. $700 for these 2 walls. I said, I found another tile which I think would be much, much nicer for the shower and give that lift, and made by Sarah in this factory in Stoke, and it's a beautiful kind of azuri turquoise blue ground with a dirty dark bottle green mottle on top. And suddenly my tile bill, or my client's tile bill, I'm not paying, I just love spending other people's money, jumped from £500 to £4,500 for 2 walls. But
it was worth it.
I'm keeping people, giving apprenticeships, I'm helping support an apprenticeship program in Stoke-on-Trent. Bravo to that. But he's just one of those joyous clients where everything I've shown him. I was in Tetbury, which is a lovely place in kind of South Cotswolds that has quite a lot of antique shops, and I was in Lawfords, and literally the delivery man was bringing this beautiful kind of 2.5 meter wide 18th century Italian painted panel canvas in. And I was like, that would look really good in Blake's bedroom above the bed. So I quickly phoned him out and said, can you measure between the 2 architraves of the door to the bathroom and the door to the hall? And he went, 290. I went, excellent, this is 285. So I quickly sent him a photo, and I went, do you like it? He went, yes, how much is it? I went, that doesn't matter. But I said, I've ordered it for you. I put it on reserve. So, and he literally, everything I've done, he's like, okay, I trust you.
Oh, wow. He is a dream.
That's so lovely.
He's a dream client. So I'm very excited. So it'd be lovely, because it'd be my first proper...
And when will that be?
Amazing.
End of September.
Okay.
So I've got house and garden going in to hopefully shoot.
Oh, exciting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Great. So we'll all get to see it.
We'll get to see it and go, oh no, stick to the specialist decoration.
No.
Stick to the paint. Yeah.
Balliname sales just gonna skyrocket.
I mean, Sarah, she's an extraordinary woman. She will take on a lot of industry people, big industry, who basically copy and plagiarize smaller artisans' work. So she's actually set up a fund because she sued a lighting company in the UK for copying her lacquer mirror. And she has now set up a fund for small makers so it's a non-profit fund, who find their other work being plagiarized by there was another company, Pentreath and Hall, do these beautiful Musée sort of alphabet cups. And I think Arquette, which is part of the HMN group, were copying them, and they got sued. So her Bridie, who runs Pentreath and Hall, Ben Pentreath, and Sarah are they're fearless. They do not care about taking on big industry plagiarizing and ripping off small producers. Wow. So I love Sarah Watson. I mean, we love each other. So she's an amazing woman, isn't she?
Yeah, she's fantastic. Yeah. She's brilliant.
So if you feel like splashing out on beautiful tiles, go and have a look at Ballineum.
But you could just do that for a splashback.
Yeah, you could.
You don't have...
I mean, literally 14 tiles. There you go. No, you don't. At all.
And they are just so lovely. As Paddy says, the ones with the sort of the tube ones are extraordinary. I used them a border version in a shower. So we used white sort of metro-shaped tiles for the main bit of the shower, but we laid them so they're like a basket weave, which is lovely. And then we put this border tile all the way around the outside, and at the back of the soap recess had sort of that much square of them as just solid, bigger tiles. And it was just beautiful, and it lifted these plain white tiles, and it made it look really couture. So even if you just have a few bits, it makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Give it a pop.
Yeah.
Love that. So I want to talk a little bit about the universals of British design. Something we talk a lot about at Luxe, being a regional magazine, is interiors needing to feel of a place and correct for where they're located. And some things from England might be right in the average American household. Some probably aren't. So I would love to hear from you both kind of where you think the rub is. What kind of principles of British design you think always have a place elsewhere versus things that probably wouldn't have the same sense of chic if they were here instead.
I'd like to do with scale, perhaps. I don't know, my sort of mantra is suitability, which I love because that applies to everything. So, is the fabric suitable for your curtains? Is it suitable for your budget? Is it suitable for the room you're using it in? And then you can just apply that across the board. Scale of furniture, I think probably not all British furniture is smaller, but lots of our houses are much smaller than American houses. So perhaps, those smaller bits are going to look a bit ditzy here, whereas you've got wonderful space and you can have a glorious great big table or a very big sofa. For example, Restoration Hardware have opened in England, and I am staggered that they have done this because I don't see how you get those sofas into anybody's house. Chop them up or something.
It went kind of viral because everybody's going, fine, but as you say, but it won't fit in any property in the United Kingdom.
It's ridiculous. So scale, I think, is a certainty.
Scale is the key. So certain English antiques.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think they do. I mean, you love our brown furniture. I mean, you adore it.
We do.
And you keep shopping over in the UK because it's a lot cheaper and shipping it over.
And then we have to buy it back.
Yeah.
Like first dibs, which is it says, and you go, look, a perfect English table. Where does it come from? Yes, it's in Connecticut. We'll have that back, please.
Let's expand this a little and leave our audience with some tips and tricks. What are your favorite British design gestures or even periods of furniture or, I don't want to say trends because we don't like that word in the design space, do we? But, what are kind of some of your go-to tricks, go-to moves that you feel like really do lend a British sensibility?
And Englishness, that's quite interesting. Yes. I've worked quite a lot abroad in Europe as well as in America. And I always love the fact that I've been asked to go to Italy or France or Ireland.
Well, yeah.
To be able to help people create some lovely house there. So I suppose back to the upholstery, back to this really finely made upholstery that is like a beautiful Savile Row suit for a man. It's simple, but it's so well cut and well made that it looks English or British. I think, again, the curtains, I have this lovely French client, and she says, well, Emma, your curtains are so expensive, but when I wake up in the morning, I look at them, and they're wonderful, and I see the French curtains, and I think, oh, no. That's how it goes.
High praise.
Yeah. I love that.
What about just like specific design elements? Like, is a roll arm chair like something that you feel like can always kind of blend?
British P-arm I think. That's that's very British, and that's lovely. So very different from that. It's much lower, and it kind of goes over, and it's perfect. So when you're sitting in your sofa or your armchair, your arm just rests, and it's just very sort of easy to pick up your glass of water, your cup of tea, or pick up your book. That's a very English shape. If you look at Howard chairs, Howard furniture, which is so traditional, that you'll often see that. You look at photographs of the library at Badlington or Chatsworth, or we do one called St James's, the St James's armchair, which John Fowler did for St James's Palace, and so I think that's probably quintessentially British in look. Less overstuffed as well, I think. Our things would be sort of finer.
And slip covers are another thing.
Slip covers.
I think we're quite practical as well. So rather than getting rid of something, so it might still be quite an uncomfortable chair, but you can make it look a bit nicer with a good slip cover and a really lovely ruffle skirt. So
all of that traction from the dogs and kids.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm actually just patching a slip cover that I found. My son Bobby has just bought a cottage, his first house. He's so excited. Bobby's about 6'3". Cottage is so tiny, and he's going to have to become an origami person to get into it. And Paddy has helped me with paint colours, and so it's going to be very beautiful. But I was so excited from the beloved grandmother, an old slip cover that had magpies on it. And we've always been wildly superstitious as a family, like one for sorrow, two for joy. And every time I drive past a magpie, you have to salute it, say, "Morning, Mr. Magpie, how are you and your wife today?" All of this. Anyway, so the two magpies is just such good luck for us. And I found the magpie slip cover that's full of holes, but I found a load of old arm caps, so I'm going to patch that. But then, of course, you've got the slip cover, where's the chair? Yeah. And then how do you find a chair that fits the slip cover? And I thought, I've got a chair here that's going to work. And I went upstairs to my daughter's bedroom and I put it on. It was like a Cinderella moment. The slip cover thing, it's like, they found each other.
Perfect fit.
Yeah. So hopefully it's a comfortable chair under the slip cover, but it'll look very English.
And you've got that glorious headboard in a patchwork quilt, haven't you?
Yes.
Which I think is such a genius use. A patchwork. It's lovely.
All clashing reds, and I cut up a lot of my mother's old clothes and May. I don't know how I had the patience to do it. But anyway, and then I thought, what am I going to do with it now I've made it? I shall cover a headboard with it. And it's a lovely sort of Dutch gable shape. Because of all these flashy reds, it's sort of very soft to look at. It's very pretty.
I feel like that's another element of English interiors that I've noticed. I was obsessed with some interior design British Next Designer show. I don't know if any of you watched that. I don't even remember what it was called, but every contestant knew how to do their own upholstery and was like amazing.
But how well?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Was there a staple gun involved?
There was staple gun happening.
Foam, glue, staples. Their budget for that room is about £500. It's terrible. Literally, when the camera pans and you go, pan back out.
So
that's just awful.
They were very, very bad, but I was still blown away by just how talented everyone was.
Well, maybe it's just the
hand on craft
mentality.
Yeah. Something to it.
That.
Well, I would love to hear, before we wrap up and open up to the audience, what's coming up for you guys. I know you are both very busy people, probably very busy summers ahead. What are you excited about moving into the next season, and what can we keep an eye out for?
Well, I'm on Monday getting up at 4:30 and going to Heathrow to fly to Italy, where I'm installing a project in Tuscany on the sea just above the lovely hotel of Okin. And this is this divine Italian clients. It's just so lovely. And this house was built by his father in the 60s, and we have basically ripped it apart and rebuilt it completely. But it's lovely. We've got reclaimed terracotta floors. We've got all the walls are finished in white because it's Italy and they have lovely light. So these gorgeous white walls, terracotta floors, and then lovely, lovely, lovely curtains. And they love colour as well. So we've got very lovely, pretty curtains. Nothing sort of too seaside-y, but it's because it's quite sort of strong, the countryside there. It's lovely, great big olive trees and wonderful boulders, and so got lots of nice terracottas and ochres and lovely sort of burnt siennas and things like that. So there's that, and we chose the kitchen in Florence. We went, both the client and my assistant and I went to this gorgeous place. If you ever go to Florence, go to Riccardo Bartel. It's just fabulous. And you go in and it's a kind of courtyard, and there's a man upholstering a wing armchair, cutting up an old Aubusson and using the border here, and just already like, you're still my beating heart. And we ordered the kitchen from there, and it's just lovely because I've seen it, but I haven't seen the stone on it yet. And it looks like it's always been in the house. It looks as if the house has been really well cared for, and we're opening it up again for the summer. But, it's all gone in new, but hopefully it's not going to feel any different. And the client's daughter had said, she came to a meeting, she said, I really hope you haven't ruined it. It was my favourite house in the world, and I want to spend the whole summer there, and I bet you've made it perfectly beastly. Oh. Anyway, we said, no, we haven't. It's going to be lovely. It's going to be significantly
She
more
said that to you?
Yes. She's a very strong girl. Goodness. Which is good. And so I'm so excited to be there, unpack all the furniture that we've shipped from England. The Italian curtain maker will be there installing the curtains. We've had all the curtain poles been made by this brilliant blacksmith in Oxfordshire, and some really, really fine, like 12 mil, kind of 3/4 of an inch. Just so slender and beautiful. So when you look at
like those French rods or not? No.
Some of them are French
Okay.
returns, and some would just go along, and it's got this the little ball finial as kind of part of it. It was just so exciting, and bathrooms are lovely. So I can't wait to see it. Actually,
Sounds very exciting. And Paddy, we know you have your private client
Yeah,
work,
so,
which is so
that's
exciting.
kind of it. So that's actually not all consuming because I work 4 days a week from Farrow Ball, but that is kind of taking up all my other time at the moment. And actually, I think I mentioned to quite a few who came to the sessions today, I've started doing virtual colour stunts in the US, which I'm really, really loving actually. And the whole idea that Americans don't embrace colour, I think is not, from my experience of the last 6 weeks, is utter nonsense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going with colour and not me at all bullying people into pushing colour. I mean, literally everybody wants colour. Everybody's being much more responsive to
And
colour.
I do think people who seek out Farrow and Ball, they're not necessarily coming to you for
We
a
have
neutral,
got 37 white. So, yeah.
So virtual color consultations, what does that actually look like if anybody wants to work with you?
Yeah, so I mean, you can either book online or book through one of the US showrooms, and
you Zoom
just book me in a slot. Yeah, and it's kind of usually through Microsoft Teams.
Oh, that's very
And we have an online. They get one of the some of you got the booklets that came today. So like a colour fan, you have that, I have that, the other, and then we kind of talk. You send me info beforehand. We have a bit of back and forth during emails and stuff like that.
Do this.
And then we kind of hopefully reach a conclusion. Yeah, essentially, I thought you said it's kind of like editing. I'm helping you edit, and kind of giving you the confidence to make decisions for yourself. I'm not really telling you what to do, but I will if you need me.
I think it's sort of that thing of having somebody to help you make the decision, because it can be overwhelming because there's so many lovely things out there.
Absolutely.
And you kind of think, I love that, but I love
Paralyzed
that,
by
I love
choice.
that. So you just need to have that sort of person who can be objective and say, this is perhaps what you were thinking when you said what you just said, so why don't you investigate that? So,
Design therapy.
yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really helpful.
Actually, Grace, there's one question I know in your list, which I think because I know we're probably running a bit, about where you should go if you visit the UK to see a particular specific example of a certain form of British design or eccentric.
Oh, and that was a good question. Thank you for bringing it back around.
Yes, I was thinking that Fenton House in Hampstead is a beautiful Georgian house decorated by John Fowler, and the music room in particular, which is on the first floor in English terms, second floor in American terms, has very lovely chintz called Caroline, which sadly we no longer make. And the leading edges of the curtains have got these double pinked and scalloped frills. And John Fowler, in addition to the pinking and scalloping, they were like a hole punch. They've got these little holes all the way down.
Almost like a broguing in a way.
Yes. And so the light comes through and you get these little shafts of light coming. It's so beautiful.
Wow.
And that's a very English, room. It's very lovely. So I would say go there if you haven't been there already, and also go to the John Soane Museum, which is so extraordinary, and with the layers of paintings and kind of hinged screens, and you open them up, and then you open them up, and there's more and more there. And
You say the name of that again?
John Soane.
Thank you.
He was the architect of the Bank of England, apart from other things. And this is his own house, which is in Lincoln's Inn Fields. And it's free to go in because he felt that people should be able to. And his collection of things is there. He collected lots of sort of Roman and Greek pieces. So down in the basement, there's great big sarcophagus. And I'm not sure you'd want to be there on your own at night. Might be some dead souls there. But also fantastic use of mirrors, convex mirrors, which you put up in the corners of the room to reflect the light. And it's really interesting. Yeah.
And what's yours, Paddy?
They're quite specific rather than domestic, but I think Leighton House in just off Kensington High Street is extraordinary. For tile work, especially. I mean, it's this beautiful sort of Moorish or Arabic festival, isn't it, of the most extraordinary tile work you've ever seen. I mean, it's bonkers and delicious, and that's definitely worth going to. That's actually run by, is it City Council, isn't it?
Yeah.
The other place is Charleston Farmhouse in Sussex, which is the Bloomsbury Group's knocking shop. Oh, it's where people have sex. Sorry.
Actually?
Well, no. They all slept with each other.
Yes.
Everybody. They're notorious.
Goodness. Like Vanessa Bell and Duncan
Grant and Vita Sackville West.
They were all kind of...
Yeah.
Well,
They were very liberal and
But they
sexually ambiguous, should we say.
They decorated every single circle. You look in
it's unbelievable. Look at it. It's the most astonishing place.
stunning. But Duncan Grant painted at the foot of the bed a dog to keep her safe at night. And
Oh, wow.
At the other end, a cockerel to wake her up in the morning. And it's extraordinary. It's spontaneous.
And I think that could not be done anywhere other than England. I think that has.
Glorious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dennis Seaver's I love, but only just through it's beautiful. It's an 18th century townhouse, silk workers, Huguenot townhouse in Spitalfields in London. And it was
fabulous.
Owned by this guy called Dennis and Seaver's. He didn't basically change anything, and it's phenomenal. I mean, you probably couldn't live in it, but as an experience, and they do these beautiful tours in winter, kind of by candlelight, and it smells of incense, and you walk through this house, with no electrics, and it's so romantic.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it's a sensory overload. So, I mean, there are utter gems, aren't there, for something truly extraordinary. And I know you have loads, and I know you're dripping with extraordinary houses all down the East Coast into kind of the Southwest. Southeast. It's just beautiful. I think the interiors evolve a lot, don't they? They're quite organic.
Yes, and they might happen over years. And also they might stay for years. There could be a house that hasn't been touched for 30 years, and it's only just starting to look rather nice. It's kind of mulching down. I think it's like when you hang pictures, how you can hang couple, and then you almost have to go out, walk around the block and come back, and they need to settle in, and then with your eye, actually, I need to maybe tweak that a little bit, then I can add these, and then you can build up the picture. But it's quite difficult, I think, just to go boom, boom, boom. Well, you can do it, but then I think it just probably has no soul. And I think we want the decoration to have depth.
Welcome to Talk Shop. I'm Ariel.